Everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we got our movie of the week, which is Woman in the Yard. So this is supposed to be a new horror film from Blumhouse, which we love that company, so we wanted to go see it, and it seemed pretty intriguing, quite honestly. Who is this woman in the yard, and what's all the weird, funny business that could happen? So we're here to tell you our non-spoiler thoughts first, give the movie a rating, and then we will transition to spoilers. Like I said, in the beginning, that I was excited to go see this movie. I was very intrigued to see what it would be about, and no disrespect to what the film is actually about, but it wasn't what I signed up for. It ends up being a more serious message than you'd probably think. And honestly, what really pulled me out of this film is that there was a lot of times that there were these moments with the characters, it's the mom and her two kids. There's a lot of times where we had moments with these family members where it seemed, very tense, uh, bonding at times. And there was a lot of times where those things were fake. They were just things that they were thinking of. And some of those scenes are pretty lengthy. So for me, that really pulled me out of the film every now and then. And by the time that the movie was over, I was already long gone for the most part. Um, what were your thoughts?
I enjoyed the movie for the most part, but like you, I felt kind of tricked from the trailer, and I just rewatched the trailer too to see if did I just miss what it was supposed to be about? Um, and no. The trailer does a good job, I think, of portraying the creepiness and the horror type element of it. But what ends up being the bad guy or, the what's behind the message or what's, controlling these bad things, that's what I think is I guess kind of a surprise for you, if you will. And I'm trying to leave that until we get to the spoilers as to what it actually is. I just didn't get the vibe from the trailer to match what the movie actually was. I feel like we got a very different style movie, more so in the second half, I think, than what the trailer was portraying. Um, I think that's probably the best way to describe it without going too in detail of what it actually is. But I do think there were parts of it that were definitely scary. There were definitely parts of it that were a little gross. Um, like you can see she's in crutches and stuff in the trailer, and it's like at one point she's looking at and playing with her stitches, and that was just nasty. Gross, gross. But most of it is not like that. So I think if you're squeamish like me, you should be able to just look away and not have to skip out on the movie just for that. Um,
One of the
there are
things
some
I
very sad parts.
one of the things I was going to say that was kind of annoying was, you know, what is this movie rated? Is it rated R?
It is PG-13.
PG. So actually what bothered me is what made me think this was going to be PG-13. So when you have PG-13 films, one of the things that companies really like to do is jump scares. And what I thought was really annoying was when this movie started. We start with a recording that she's watching, but then there's a good like 10 to 15 minutes of the kids just kind of doing their everyday life. It's not a big spoiler, so that's why I'm saying it.
You can
And
see it in the trailer, the kid making breakfast and stuff.
every little thing that he's doing is super loud. So like he's, slams the drawer shut, or slams a door open, or he slams this and slams that, and it's like all these different like very quick cuts in the editing that they do to try to emphasize like uneasiness or trying to literally grab your attention, even though these things really don't play any like scary part. That we're not even in the part of the movie where things are scary. It's just, seeing their everyday life. And so I thought that was a little excessive. Um, One thing I will say on the positive side, though, is that this movie didn't really take too long to address the woman in the yard. I would probably argue she was probably seen and talked about within the first 15 minutes of this film, maybe 10. So it was pretty quick to see, you know, this character. I thought the woman in the yard was creepy. She had a cool voice and she was mysterious. And so there were some things that they definitely did right, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that really pulled me out. And once I started to piece together what this movie really was, I kind of checked out. So that's why it was pretty low for me.
I feel like once you figure out what's going on, like what's the behind the scenes of, why characters are acting the way they're acting, it makes you start to question everything you've seen up until that point. Like, why did this character do this? Or why did the scary woman do this? Or whatever. It completely redoes your whole thinking process on the movie and makes it really hard to pay attention on or even care about what's going to happen next because you're too busy focusing on how things didn't make sense before.
Well, even to go along with that, there are some movies that do that very well, where it's like, oh my God, this is completely different than I thought it was. Now I can interpret it differently. But this movie, it was, oh, that was fake? Okay, well, we just wasted 20 minutes, but um, that's how I felt this movie was more or less like.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm
so
having a really hard time coming up with a rating for this film just because I feel like the first and second half of the film are so different from each other. And the first half is what I came there for, and the second half is not necessarily a bad movie, just not what I was expecting, and also not a good movie, at least in my opinion. It didn't mesh well with the first half.
it is definitely not a movie I will watch again.
Yeah.
I'll say that. But to its own merit, I do think. I feel like if you know what this movie is about, then maybe and that's what attracts you to the film, you'd probably enjoy it a bit more than we did. But for me, it was there's this mysterious woman in the yard. What the heck is going on? Like there's so many times where I was thinking that she was some other character than who she ends up being. And I was like, oh, it's gonna be this person, it's gonna be this person, and this like drama is gonna unfold, and it never was. So
I think probably the best way to put it, and you can cut this out if you think it's too much spoiler-like, is the trailer makes it seem like it's very focused on her being a mysterious person that they have to deal with, maybe paranormal, maybe something along those lines, or a regular person. And the trailer also shows you that the dad had died. And I think it has to do with that and the psychologicalness of dealing with that a lot more than what the trailer lets on.
yeah, probably. Um, I'm ready to roll into ratings if you are.
I will get the ball rolling with a 5. I think for what it is, it's a pretty average film because there are some things that I really liked. And once you know what's going on, if you wanted to do a rewatch, that might, kind of balance it out a little bit compared to. I hate doing movies poorly on the rating scale just because the trailer didn't represent the movie. Like, yes, that super bothers me, but I'm trying to rate the movie for what it is, not just what I wanted it to be. And I feel like I'm at a 5 on this one.
I'm a little bit lower than yours. I'm at a 3. I think this is a below average horror film. I think, again, if you kind of know what the movie is about, then you'd probably enjoy it. But if you're going into this thinking that you're gonna get like scared and, cuddle up to a pillow or whatever, it's really not gonna happen. The idea that it focuses on is definitely a scary thing to think about. But as far as engaging with a horror film, it's just not there. So I think this one is below average. It's not a dysfunctional movie by any means, but it just was not good at what it was supposed to be. So I'm at a 3. So 5 for Sarah, 3 for me, and we are going to now transition to spoilers. So this movie is all about mental health. And When I was going through the movie, I was like, I bet this is about mental health. And then even at the credits, it's like, if you or someone you know, da 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 da, call this hotline. And,
Well,
so
just to
that,
be more specific, it's mostly about suicide.
yeah. And so that's basically what you're in for. If you're um, wanting to go see this movie and you think, it's supposed to be horror, well, it's really more towards the mentality and the battle that, people have with their struggles. And so this movie, it starts off with the mom, which there's only like five characters in this movie, according to IMDb. And the mom, Ramona, she's watching a video, and this video is of her husband laying next to her, and they're talking about, they bought this house that they're in. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful that it has to have a name, and they're talking about all that stuff. And she definitely watches this video a lot because we see her even rewind it at times to rewatch it. So it means a lot to her. But then we find out, so she's a single mom, she's on crutches because something happened to her, and her kids are trying to find something to eat for breakfast, and there isn't anything really there. Even the dog wants something to eat for breakfast, and the son gives it some leftovers, which the dog really can't have because the dog ends up throwing it up later. So we can tell within this 10 to 15 minutes of really dragging on that they're very poor. They're or if they do have money, then she's just not going to the store and, getting things for them. So
I think it's that.
it's one of those two. Because she even mentions, oh, I'll just add it to the list. But this particular day, the power goes out. And so, they're just kind of sitting around waiting for that power to come back on. I think they make a couple of comments about, uh, you know, we can't play PlayStation or anything like that. All their phones are dead. Like they all forgot to charge their phones the night before. It was kind
I
of
think I think it's that his phone is broken, and hers, she played that video so many times her phone died.
gotcha.
Magically at the moment right before she's supposed to call.
Right. So we eventually get to the part where the kids are like, "Who's that woman in the yard?" And so, the mom looks out and sees this woman in the yard, just like we all see from the trailer. So she goes out there to talk to this person, and, the person's really creepy about things. And what really starts to bother Ramona is that this person starts talking about, um, how the husband hasn't taken good care of the house. It could definitely be fixed up more. And I think she doesn't she even say something about him being dead? Like there's something that really pushes Ramona over the edge.
Well, Ramona tried to insinuate that my husband will be back soon, so like you better leave, and the woman in the yard just goes, "We both know he's not coming back soon. He's dead."
Yeah. So, that really upsets Ramona. She heads back towards the house. And really, the objective here is we need to be able to call somebody, but their phones are dead. So, Ramona even tries to go outside to one of their trucks to, start the truck so she can plug her phone in to charge it, but it won't go. She even looks for their dog that was chained up outside, and the dog is missing, which is really weird because the chain was like in the ground, so it's as if the dog was buried. Um, but then we also have a lot of things happening in the house where this is where I was like pulled in and out of the movies because the mom would think about these things with the kids and they just wouldn't happen. And so this is kind of us as the audience understanding how she feels and thinks. But again, at the end of the day, I thought it was something that really broke up the movie.
One of the instances that I can remember that you're probably referring to is that she has this like butcher knife that she thinks she's keeping it handy for protection from the woman in the yard, but then her life kind of she almost envisions the fact that she stabbed her daughter in the back and killed her. She didn't actually do it, it turned out to be fake because she stabbed a pillow instead, but she's kind of losing her grip with reality.
Yeah, because she's pissed off that her daughter can't write her letter R the correct way. She keeps writing it backwards. Um, which I wish I wish maybe there's some sort of underlining thing with that. Like did the color red have something to do with um
I think it's more just that the kid kept doing it wrong over and over and over, no matter how many times the mom told her to fix it. And then her son was bouncing the ball against the wall, which noises like that repeatedly will bother me. And so I think what it was happening was that the mom was just getting annoyed between the girl, Mom, is this right? Mom, is this right? Mom, is this right? And it's wrong every time. And she has to tell her every time. And then the other kid is bouncing the ball against the wall. They were driving her nuts. She was just ready for it to be over. Like, kids, can you just behave for a minute? Goodness. I think that's more or less what it was trying to show is just that she was going crazy with these kids.
yeah. So I was looking up just in case it had a connection. I was looking up to see what was the color for mental health awareness month and if there's a color that has to do with suicide awareness. And neither one of those are red. So I thought that would have been a good way to make some sort of connection, but clearly not for this movie. So yeah, we have a lot of those things, and eventually the woman in the yard is getting closer and closer to the house. We see that she has some sort of like supernatural powers with the shadows. So if something has a shadow, then she can use her shadow to manipulate what is happening in the house. So for instance,
This is what made me think it was going to be paranormal from the trailer because they show her mess with the wind chime.
yep. So like the son at one point goes inside and grabs the family gun and goes outside and is like aiming it at the woman in the yard, and that's when she's, messing, like you said, with the chimes. Uh, but part of me just wants to like fast forward towards the ending and talk about, ultimately what this comes to because, the family has their run around in the house. They're scared of this woman in the yard. She's coming into the house. She eventually gets in the house and, they're doing their thing. But really what this is leading up to is that there's the woman in the yard tells the son like your mom's not telling you the full truth. And so the mom has like this flashback sequence where we see that she's out to dinner with her husband and then they're on their way home, and I didn't quite catch, was she alluding, was the woman in the yard alluding to that the mom crashed the car on purpose to kill the husband, or is she just
I think it's that the mom told the kids that the dad was driving and
oh
that he somehow crashed the car because she didn't want the kids to blame her for it. But what had really happened was that it was raining and she was the one driving and they had had an argument. So she feels really guilty about it because the last things that her and her dead husband had talked about was, an argument. And she saw something in her rearview mirror that kept distracting her. We see it as the woman from the yard, but it could have been anything. And so she veered off, and because of her veering towards oncoming traffic, the passenger side, which is where the dad was, is what got hit the worst. So clearly that's why he died and she didn't.
right. And also an important part when she sees the woman in the yard in the rear view, like half her face looks like it's blown off. And so when we go further into the movie, what we find out is that the woman in the yard is actually our main character, Ramona. And it's basically her mental health that she's battling. Like, so why does the woman in the yard have half her face blown off? Well, because Ramona has been contemplating suicide, with a gun. So it's kind of like what she's imagining would happen to her. Like if she were to go through with these things she wants to do, this is like the still image of what she is. Now, what I find interesting about that, and I don't like, it just doesn't make much sense to me, is then why do the kids see her?
That's what I was wondering too. So before we jump too far down that rabbit hole, just some like key things that they were bringing up that I think kind of emphasize the whole idea of it being the suicide way to go. Is that she kept saying, being the woman in the yard, you prayed for me every day. What were you praying for? You were praying for strength. It wasn't strength to keep going, it was strength to pull the trigger. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to help you. There's a reason why you threw away all the bullets but one. It's because you wanted the one for yourself. Like you didn't need any more, you just needed one. And so that's kind of why she's insinuating of like, I'm here. Today's the day. I'm gonna help you. Here, let's put the gun up to you. Back to what you were saying though about why the kids see her. I think when the mom's around, it would make sense for the kids to see the woman in the yard because they can recognize that the mom's depressed. She is not her normal self. She's not taking care of herself. She's not taking care of the kids. She's not taking care of the house. She's not doing anything. She's just staying in bed all day being depressed, which understandably, she basically just accidentally killed her husband. But at the same time, she has some sort of responsibility to find help for her or her kids. That's why I think that it's okay for the kids to see the lady when the mom's around because they can kind of recognize something's not right. But there are some scenes where like the daughter gets trapped in a room and she just keeps freaking out and getting scared because the shadow monster is chasing her and like throwing stuff at her. And she's completely by herself, and that's what didn't make sense to me. And it happens to the kid and to the dog for that matter. Um, and the chickens, what killed all the chickens?
I don't know. Kids were hungry. Well, see, this whole time I was wondering, like, okay, the husband's dead. If the mom is somehow responsible, maybe the woman in the yard is like her mother-in-law that is like tormenting her and like really upset, and so she's really trying to give the family, a scare. And especially since when we're seeing the movie, we can see that the woman in the yard is not Ramona. Like it's a different actress. And so I don't know. I feel like it's just kind of a cheap way to have that effect happen. Like the way that I understand it is it's just, this is not who she is. It's not who she sees herself to be, and maybe that's why she looks different.
Maybe just that she didn't recognize, because at some point it becomes her. Like it actually is her body.
Right.
So maybe
And
it's just that she didn't recognize it before. Like
yeah, like
these
she
awful
doesn't
thoughts that I'm feeling are suicide thoughts.
she doesn't recognize herself anymore, kind of a thing. Like this is not who I'm used to be, and so she's seeing this different person. So, I mean, I can get it, but at the same time, I just feel like it's kind of lazy with the writing and the way that it plays out. I feel like it could have been done better. I almost wish that, when we see the woman in the yard and that veil is over her face, I really wish we could not see her face at all. Like it's a complete silhouette because by seeing that it's somebody else, I think that kind of ruins it in a way where it's not as interesting. Like we can clearly see it's somebody else. So this whole time we're thinking, oh, who is this person? Is she XYZ? And, when we find out, oh, it's just Ramona, it's like, eh, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, getting to the end of the movie, right? So she recognizes that, uh, can you promise that my kids are gonna be okay? And, so she's showing her on the pictures on the wall, like what they look like when they're all grown up and they look
I
fine. And
I did think that was a cool scene when
yeah,
she was showing and the pictures were changing. That was a cool scene. You got to give props where props are due.
it's true. Um, so she's essentially convinced herself, like, okay, this is what's best for my kids, is I'm not well enough to take care of them. They'd be better off without me. So I'm gonna go through with this because the woman in the yard, which is me, is saying that this is the best course of action. But she wants to say goodbye to her kids, although she doesn't really say goodbye. She just sends them off in the middle of the night with a flashlight to the neighbor's house that's a few miles down the road and says, basically go, get help. And so she goes to the garage with the gun, and the woman is like helping her position her hands and position the gun and getting everything lined up because she's scared because who wouldn't be scared? It's a very scary, real thing. Um, but before she pulls the trigger, and at this point, I almost thought she was gonna pull the trigger on the woman instead of herself, like "Go away, grief, be gone," or like something like empowering like that. But instead, she just doesn't pull the trigger. And then all of a sudden her kids are back and she doesn't say anything about like why'd you come back? Because I'm expecting the neighbor to be back with them. Like, oh, she contemplated it for like an hour and so the kids went and got help and came back already or something, but their neighbor's not with them. It's just the kids. So they disobeyed again, I guess, by going, half a mile down the road, turning around and coming back without actually getting any help. Um, and so that didn't make sense to me either. Like, I don't know why they came back empty-handed. And essentially, they just live happily ever after. Everything kind of it's almost like a wash of the house is completely done. There's this beautiful front porch. The inside's completely redone. All the renovations are done. The house has a name. I don't remember what it was. Lilac Paradise, maybe? Whatever the flower was that she was obsessed with, it was named after that. Um, I want to say it was lilacs, but just they almost kind of allude to the fact that the house has been completely renovated just like the husband had wanted, but at the same time it seems like no time has passed. Like it just magically reappeared. Everything's as magical as they had hoped it'd be.
Yeah, it's time to go play a PlayStation.
So I don't know. I don't really understand how to interpret that ending because it doesn't seem like any time has passed for them to completely redo everything, especially when they're so broke they can't even really feed themselves or put gas in the truck. But
Yeah, it is what it
somehow,
is.
I guess. This is why I'm at a 5 because I feel like it had such potential. It could have been so much better. There were some good scary parts, at least in my opinion, but it just did not reach its potential.
I think this movie will probably be very profitable just on the fact that it's a horror film and there's like five people in it. So, um, yeah, it is what it is. And like I said, if you're wanting to see a movie and you kind of know the message already, it's interesting to watch from that lens. But if you're going into it blind, it's not the greatest. So, all right. Well, that is our talk on The Woman in the Yard. If you enjoy this type of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Drop us a like if you like the video and drop us a comment letting us know your thoughts on Woman in the Yard. And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.